all of you awesome scuba divers out there, welcome to the Scuba Dive Magazine channel. Today's video is inspired by viewer McQ, who asked if I could make a video on how the colour of dive equipment can affect how visible you are whilst you're scuba diving in different situations. And it's genuinely a great question because scuba diving isn't like any other sport, because the deeper we go underwater, certain colours start to change and even disappear, and we dive in a range of different waters. Whilst many oceans are blue, a lot of our fresh waters are green, and the light source varies also. Today's video is sponsored by dive equipment manufacturer Techline. Right now they're celebrating their 20th anniversary, and a lot of their Techline equipment comes in a whole range of colours, and I just thought that paired up quite nicely, and I could use them as good case studies and examples. Obviously I couldn't get my hands on one of each colour, BCD or fin or whatever it is, but I'm going to do the best that I can visually so that you can get a better idea of what actually happens to each colour as depth and distance increases. So which is the best colour to wear for scuba diving? Let's start with the basics. White is a colour that reflects every wavelength of visible light. So is white a good colour to be seen underwater? Sort of. White can be quite bright underwater, but with natural lights, as the water filters out the red wavelengths and with greater distances as well, whites tend to look blue unless you shine a torch on it. Shining a light on any colour underwater will bring it back to its natural colour. However, you do need to be quite close or have quite a powerful torch to be able to actually benefit from it. White can get a little lost underwater, but if you're looking for it, it is a pretty decent colour. It's not the best, but it's a solid 3 stars as far as visibility in a range of different environments. It works a little better in green waters, but it can get lost in brighter blue waters. It does, however, get dirty quite quickly though. Oceans, lakes and rivers are quite dirty places, so if you brush up against something, that dirt is just going to work its way into the fabric and it's stained. Even white fins get grubby over time. If your white gear rubs up against some like black rubber, it can stain it quite easily, and white gear can just discolour naturally over time, and especially in sunlight. So it will still be quite bright, but it will be hard to keep white gear pristine white for very long whilst scuba diving. On the surface, white can get lost in any surf. Cresting waves turn white, so in choppy seas, white can kind of blend in and get lost. So it's not the best colour even on the surface. Most dive gear comes in black. We've had this conversation plenty of times as to why most dive equipment comes in black, but as far as visibility in the water, yeah, it's pretty rubbish. Blacks and greys blend into dark backgrounds and they're easily lost, especially in deeper depths, low light conditions and greater distances. Practically, it's a great colour. Black goes with everything. It doesn't really stain or discolour, so for keeping your dive gear looking new, it's great. The only time where black as a colour improves your ability to be seen is a very bright conditions where the dark colour contrasts against a brighter background. So if you're above another diver and they'll look up, they'll spot you against the bright surface. And if you're on the surface and the water itself is quite a bright blue, then you might stand out all right, but for general visibility, black's a 1-star colour. Red. Red works really well on the surface. It contrasts pretty well against the water in natural light. However, as we all know, red is the very first colour to disappear as you descend a little bit deeper. In about 5 meters of pure water, red just appears a dull brown, even less if there are impurities in the water. Red is a surface colour. That's why you see a lot of red surface marker buoys, because it stands out quite nicely on the surface. That being said, If we surface somewhere unexpected, if all of your dive equipment is red, then you are going to stand out pretty well on the surface if someone is looking for you against blue and green waters. Underwater though, you're not going to stand out very well unless you shine a torch on red. Underwater, red is like less than 1 star. At least black can be dark enough to contrast, but red just kind of dulls and blends in, turns this kind of brownish color. On the surface, however, yeah, it is a good like 3 or 4 star color. Orange is a decent color. It contrasts on the surface very well and underwater in both blue and green water. Orange is the second color to start to disappear through the rainbow though, and this is where we begin our journey learning about fluorescent colors, because when you say orange, there's kind of a few different hues of orange. So regular, like mellow orange will dull soon after red does. The more fluorescent shades of orange really stand out better as they reflect light better. Fluorescent colors can absorb shorter wavelengths of lights, that's the kind of the blue wavelengths of light, and then reflect back longer wavelengths so they appear to be brighter. But as the depth or distance increases, orange will soon dull, so orange gets a 4 out of 5 for underwater. On the surface, similar to red, I'd give it a solid 4 stars. It's high there, it could possibly be a 5 to be honest. Underwater, orange has a total absorption depth of around 20 meters. It's about 4 times farther than red, but still it's 20 meters. Even so, I still give the color 4 out of 5 underwater, but try to look for the more fluorescent oranges for the best effect. Yellow is probably the best color for use in the water when it comes to being seen. Our octos are yellow so that they're more easily seen in the widest range of conditions. Yellow disappears after red and then after orange. They can turn a little bit greenish as the yellow and the blue light starts to mix, but they will still stand out well in the water from greater distances and varying light conditions. You'll often see instructors with yellow fins, and if you think about commercial diving equipment, that tends to be marine yellow so that it can be seen. Yellows can reach up to around 50 meters in pure water, obviously less so in murky waters, but still, we're improving upon orange here. Fluorescent yellow can be better in some circumstances, and there are some that call yellow dive gear yum yum yellow because they believe sharks are attracted to the yellow color. I don't think there's a lot of solid evidence to that, but on the surface, yellow probably isn't quite as good as the reds and the oranges, especially in some brighter circumstances. It's good in darker blue waters because it's a little bit brighter and it contrasts, but not so good in brighter blue waters where the sun is quite low as well. The yellow can blend into the background if there's a yellow sun behind it. So yellow's a 5 underwater and a 4 on the surface. Yellow's a strong all-rounder. With green, we're starting to shift from the benefit of a color that doesn't disappear quite so soon, but it also doesn't contrast quite as strongly in blue water nor green waters. Yellow will dull before green does, however green is closer in hue to a bluish color, and a dull green will be harder to spot before a bright yellow does. Fluorescent green, on the other hand, is great, and some of those emergency water dives that you break open so that helicopters can see you, they're bright green so that you can be spotted from the sky more easily. Bright green absorbs those blue and green wavelengths and then appears a greenish yellow. On the surface of blue water, bright green is a good color. On the surface of green water, it's less good unless it's fluorescent. Underwater, it's a solid 3 to 5 stars depending on the hue. Green has a long range of over 100 meters underwater, so if you can get a real fluorescent green, that's going to have some range to it. Blue doesn't do a lot for you to help you stand out in the water. If the background is blue and the object is blue, it's going to disappear quite easily. In green waters, it can be a little more easily spotted. A bright blue can contrast against a darker blue background as well, and the blue color will stand up to a greater distance, all the way up to like 275 meters if the light source is powerful enough and the water is clear enough. But the problem is, when everything looks blue, something that looks a bit more blue isn't going to stand out amazingly well. But at least your fins will always look blue. They're never gonna like dull and turn like a brownish color, no matter the depth or the distance. But as far as standing out in the water so you can be more easily identified, blue can't score that highly. Similar to red, but pink can have a slight edge in blue water especially. A dull pink, like a baby pink, can appear a little brighter compared to red in close proximity, but it still disappears quite easily. And again, below 5 meters or something, that pink is just going to appear that brownish color that red normally goes. But a fluorescent pink is surprisingly good, both on the surface and deeper down. Purple, as with green, tends to blend into the blues before long. They're great to stand out on the dive boat, but actually in the water, not so good. Purple won't be great on the surface unless it's a particularly bright purple, but we don't tend to see too many fluorescent purples. But pink, yeah, pink actually does show up surprisingly good, both on the surface and underwater. The main learning points of this are that fluorescent colors really stand out, even underwater. I mean, there's a reason they make high-vis jackets out of these bright colors. There's a bit of a bell curve of effective colors that peaks around the yellow, with orange and green either side of it. Red is only good on the surface, and fluorescent pink is surprisingly good if that's your color scheme. To check out Techline's range of diving equipment, just head over to techlinediving.eu. They have a full range of diving equipment from mast and fins and regulators and B's and D's. We have a few pieces of Techline gear here at Scuba Diver Mag at the moment in test, so stay tuned for those gear reviews and subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.